Hello, I'm Betsy Abramson. I am co-chair of the Racial Justice Action Team at Temple Beth-El, a Reform synagogue in Madison, Wisconsin. And with me today is Lynn Silverman, also a member of the Action Team. We're here to talk about the court observation project of the Nehemiah Corporation. And Lynn is one of the volunteers there. So we're spend a little time today telling you about the project and Lynn's personal experience with it. So Lynn, thanks for doing this with me today. And you want to start out and just tell us, what is court observation?
Well, the court observation program is a volunteer-led program initiated by Nehemiah for community members to deepen our understanding of the criminal justice system, and especially the ways in which it impacts people of color. And we do this through direct observation and education. We then share our observations with Nehemiah and identify possible advocacy issues. And we observe in both criminal court proceedings and eviction court.
Okay, thanks. So what's the difference between criminal court and eviction court, Lynn?
Well, in the criminal court proceedings, we're watching the first appearance of someone who's accused of a crime, or else a motion or plea hearing or sentence hearing. And so far we haven't been watching actual trials, but we may do so in the future if these are in person again. In eviction court, we watch the preliminary appearance of somebody who may be getting evicted, and then the trial also. And I just want to put in a plug for eviction court. It's a new initiative from Nehemiah. This is a really critical time for people to observe an eviction court, because so many people through the pandemic have lost jobs and are in danger of being evicted and homeless. It's also very important to know that in the criminal court, if you can't afford an attorney, the state will appoint one, but this isn't necessarily true in eviction court, at least not in Wisconsin. So one of the goals for the court observer program here is to gather information that could make the case for increased representation.
Sure. That makes sense. Thanks for letting us know about that. We mentioned Nehemiah, and you and I have both had some connection, but for folks watching who are new to it, you want to say a little bit about what Nehemiah is and why they're involved in this project, Lynn?
Sure. Nehemiah is a Black-led organization in town. It was started in the 1990s to address unmet needs of Black people here in Madison and the surrounding communities. And it has a variety of programs: economic development, leadership development, family wellness, reentry services for people coming out of prison. And it also sponsors, or has developed rather, the Black History class. That's an educational program, mostly for white people, about American history, for those of us who want a more in-depth understanding of American history. And Nehemiah
want to become allies, right?
And want to become allies, yes.
And who want to become allies.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Nehemiah is very interested in the issue of mass incarceration and the fact that our legal system disproportionately incarcerates more people of color than white people.
Okay, thanks. So how did you get involved in this, Lynn? With all the different volunteer opportunities in town, how did you pick this one?
Well, I had heard about the Black History class and was able to attend it several years ago. And the class was really eye-opening for me. And afterwards, I wanted to do something. I wanted to get involved. And I was interested in the issue of mass incarceration. And so this seemed like a good fit. And having taken the Black History course, I knew that Nehemiah was a good organization. So this worked for me.
Really spoke to you. So as I recall, Lynn, you're not a lawyer, so you don't have to be a lawyer to do this court observation. Then How do you get trained to do it?
No, absolutely not. I have no legal training, but we do have training as part of the court observation program. So for criminal court, there are 3 training sessions, 90 minutes apiece, and the trainings explain the basics of the proceedings that you'll be watching, the terminology, how to access the hearings on YouTube, how to fill out the forms, access CCAP, all those kinds of things. And the eviction court training really allows you to do the same kinds of things. It's a little shorter, the training, but basically explains the same kinds of things. And the training includes having people watch the hearings and then come back as a group and discuss and reflect on what you've heard, ask questions, that kind of thing. And then the other thing is that the volunteers are always willing and very happy to answer questions that you may have, whether it's technical or about the proceedings and your experiences. So you really do get some good training.
Great. Okay, and as I understand it, the 3 sessions for the criminal observation training are going to be starting in later in May of 2021 this year, and we'll have a slide at the end of this interview that puts those up there so folks can mark it down, as well as information about where you go to register for it or to get more information. So what exactly do you do when you used to go physically to the courtroom and watch in person, and now we're doing them online, Lynn?
Yes. So yes, we used to go to the courtroom. Now they're all online. And so we have a way to, not that we have a way, it is open to the public actually. And so you can just access the online, the virtual courtroom. And we have a docket that shows, what will be happening. We have access. Again, we don't have access. The public has access to CCAP, so we just learned how to do that. And CCAP may list charges for eviction court. We don't do that, but we do have the court docket.
Okay. So I think you've answered my next question, which was, how do you get into the courtroom? I think most folks thought maybe that they were private or only the family or the litigants were involved. But from what you're saying, these are open to the public and anyone can walk through into the courthouse when it's in person or virtually and observe hearings unless for some reason involves children or something that there would be a reason that it would be closed.
Right.
So how have the volunteers doing the court observation been received? Are the judges and the other lawyers and the litigants, are they bothered by having you folks in there observing and watching what they're doing?
That's what I would have thought, but interestingly enough, that's not the case. It's just the opposite. When we were going in person, the judges noticed that there kept being the same group of people coming in. So obviously we weren't family members, week after week, and asked us, who we were and what we were doing, and then let us know that they appreciated our being there. So yeah, actually, they appreciate that.
That's great. Yeah. So I can see how the first week or so they might have thought, well, you're a friend or an acquaintance with somebody, but when you show up time after time after time, you've got something more involved there. Right. So it would strike me as being a little scary or nerve-wracking the first time, not knowing the terminology, not knowing who's who, what's going on. And I have this form I'm supposed to fill out of what's going on. So how scary and challenging was that? And how did you get past that and get comfortable? Because you've been at this a while now, so obviously you did.
Well, it can be challenging and overwhelming at first. As you said, it's like a whole different language. There's all sorts of things going on, different people appearing, and so it can be quite challenging. Honestly, one of the good things about that is that, it allows you to understand what it must be like for the defendants who are coming, and they're overwhelmed with what's going on, and it's their lives. But it is a matter of giving it time, allowing yourself to be uncomfortable a little bit at first.
Mhm.
Because after time, you do get more comfortable. It is a learning experience. And eventually it does become more comfortable. And that's the same with the forums. They can be challenging at first, but after a while, you understand how to fill them out. And actually, the first several times that I observed that was in person, I did not fill out the forms because there's just too much coming at me. So I just let it go. And that was okay. If you can't do it at first, no one's going to get on you. And there's always people to ask when you've observed and then you're like, I don't know what's happening. There'll be people who help you out and encourage you and say, oh yeah, it is challenging at first, but you get
Okay.
to it.
And from talking with you and some following the listserv myself, Lynn, I've seen that a reminder that this is what we call qualitative research as well as quantitative. So it isn't like you've divided yourself up and every single hearing is being observed. And if you fall down on the job and miss some points on it, that you've ruined the whole process or something. So not to worry about that. And also I've heard you say that, when you're first starting out, if you're not comfortable, I could call up someone like you or somebody else on the listserv and say, hey, will you watch the same hearing I'm watching this first time? And then can we compare notes on what we got? So I know whether I'm on the right track at the end of the day. Does my form look like your form? Did I catch things? So as you said, a very supportive community of other volunteers who are watching this that can help you. So what is the time commitment? Do you have to agree to do X hours a week or certain days, or how does that work, Lynn?
Well, there is a time commitment, but I think it's very reasonable. For criminal court, the commitment is 4 hours per month. And for eviction court, it's 2 shifts a month, which are 2 hours each. But certainly if you're going away on vacation, something comes up in your life, you can't do it, that's fine. The eviction court, by the way, is on Tuesdays and every other Friday. Criminal court is Monday through Friday. And so you can also schedule according to your schedule, what fits for you. So that's one of the positives about it also. If one week you can only make a Monday, but the next week you can only make a Wednesday, you can do that.
I got it. So early in the week, like Sunday night or Monday, you get the calendar for the week of what's being scheduled. And then you can say, I want to get my 4 hours in this month or more. And you can pick out which ones you want to watch. And again, I don't have to sign up before you do to make sure I get it. If we end up watching the same ones, it's not a problem.
It's not a problem, right.
Got it. So what kind of qualities or skills or characteristics do you think volunteers need to be effective in this role?
Well, I think you need patience and flexibility because there's so much going on and it can be challenging. You need a willingness to accept that you won't understand things right away. And also the ability to witness difficult, painful life situations.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks. Now, you've talked a little bit about the support for the volunteer court observers, but I wanted to, specifically make a little space for it in these conversation, Lynn. So you said there's the training. I think I've mentioned a couple times there's a listserv, other things that are available for the observers to support.
Well, I think the big thing is just how willing everyone is to respond and try to help out. And as you said, when you're observing, there's somebody else observing that you can text. We do have periodic meetings on Zoom. There are helpful links and resources which are always being updated and improved. We also have some support from the Tenant Resource Center and Legal Action.
Wisconsin.
So it's just ongoing support.
Okay. Yeah, and I've seen myself, because I follow on the listserv, I've seen people post something like, hey guys, today I was in Judge X's court and somebody asked the defendant about blah, blah, blah. And I didn't understand why this or that. What's that about?
Right.
And all the non-lawyers opine this or that. And then somebody says, well, let me ask, one of the lawyers that we actually know.
Right. Mhm. Right, yeah, and we're constantly
Right.
doing
Or,
things like
or I saw,
mhm. No, go on.
yeah. Oh, or, what should I have written in this part for this, given that that happened or something? And so, it's a very supportive, like you said, and folks get the answers or say, I don't know.
Mhm.
And,
Right.
and, uh, so that's helpful. So what are you personally gaining from your participation, Lynn? You've been at this a while. You switched from in person to the
Mhm.
online, and obviously you're finding it satisfying and important. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think I've gained a greater understanding of our legal system, and it's made me think more deeply about possible reforms, but also larger issues like what resources do we really need in our community that could make a difference so that people don't get into the system in the first place. So it's really
Mm,
just helped me get more educated and think more about the larger issues.
great. So you just made reference, you've mentioned that it's good for education and for us, obviously Nehemiah originally got into the whole process to see if there were disparities
Mm.
between communities and how folks were treated. But I understand that the group efforts and observations have led to and Nehemiah is certainly open and encouraging of identifying policies and procedures that might need some attention. So could you give us an example of something that the court observers have identified and how you have affected a policy or procedure in the Dane County courts?
Yeah, well, since the pandemic and being virtual, um, people who are in the Dane County Jail at one point for their initial appearances had to look through this tiny food slot in their jail cell. That's where they were in virtual court appearance, and they'd have to squat and peer through, and they could barely be seen and heard. They couldn't really
What?
participate.
So they were like this much
Yeah,
of them?
they were
This
just
much of them was at the court hearing?
right, right. And so it just struck many of us as very dehumanizing. And also, people couldn't hear them or see them, and they couldn't hear us. They couldn't
Sure.
hear what was going on. And so we talked about it on the listserv, and several people decided to write letters and also testify at some hearings, make some suggestions, and also pursued media coverage. One woman had
Mhm.
the brilliant idea of making a little food slot. She constructed that and peered through, and had somebody taping her to show what it was like. And this did result in change. Defendants are now seated in a private room. So that was
Good work. Good
great.
work.
Yeah, and as I said, in
So
eviction
you moved
court,
from,
right, from observation to advocacy. And again, in eviction court, what we're doing was
wonderful.
we're looking at, what are the procedures, are people being informed about their rights or any
Mhm.
help with rent, that kind of thing. So we're looking at trying to improve outcomes for people, what policies could change.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. So, final question. Um, you and I are involved in this interest in this effort, and you're actually a current volunteer as a member of Temple Bethel. And wondering why you think it's important for Temple Bethel members and perhaps people of other faiths as well to volunteer in this effort.
Well, I think the pursuit of justice is one of the main tenets of Judaism, as it is for all faiths. As the Torah
Mhm.
states, justice, justice, you shall pursue. And so I think it's important for temple members to pursue justice in our community. And this is a very important issue for all of us. Also, at Temple Bethel, we've talked about the ways in which community members can get involved in racial justice issues. And this is an opportunity to support a Black-led organization in the important work they're doing for systemic change. So I, I think it's just a good opportunity for this.
Well, bravo to you, Lynn, and to all the volunteers in this court observation project. And our many thanks to Nehemiah. It's such an important community organization that took the initiative and is involved with this and turning it over to volunteers with their support always there. So appreciate your time today and explaining this to us. Keep up the great work. Thanks so very, very much.
Thanks for the
And
opportunity.
again, at the end of this, thanks. And at the end of this recording, there'll be a few slides here giving folks information about the dates and times and how to register for the upcoming training. That's going to be in dates in May 18th, June 1st, and June 15th in for the criminal court, and how to get information about the eviction court, as well as Lynn has offered to answer any questions that people have if they want to have a little more information about how it all works. So thanks very much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.